Hi readers, welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads. Lee here, and welcome to my week in books. I had a very productive reading week this week. One of the books was I actually started it last week, so it took me a little bit longer than normal to finish it because it was long. And aside from that, I read 5 books. And also finished, finally, an audiobook I have been working on since like the beginning of July. Let's get started, shall we? So I went to get my hair done, I guess it was the week before last, and my stylist told me about Jim Butcher and the Cinder series. She and her husband are reading the second book in the series together, and it sounded intriguing to me, so I went out and immediately bought it. I will eventually read the second in the series, just not right now. I needed some shorter books and I had to work on my Booker long list project. But in this, it's got some kind of steampunk vibes, which took me a bit to get adjusted to, but then I really loved the characters. And in this, Captain Grimm commands the merchant ship Predator, fiercely loyal to Spire Albion and fighting in the Cold War with Spire Aurora. But when Predator is severely damaged in combat, Grimm is offered a proposition from the Spire Arc of Albion to join a team of agents, and the agents are the characters I really loved, on a vital mission in exchange for restoring Predator to its glory. This was fun and action-packed. At the end, it was like the hits just kept coming over and over and over. And because of that, it propelled me forward. So if you enjoy fantasy, I highly recommend The Aeronaut's Windlass, even if I can hardly pronounce it. Next up, I went with a Booker book, and so far, I think this is my least favorite. And I'm talking about The Rest of Our Lives by Ben Markovits. Yes. Oh, I was trying to figure out why I said what. Something happened that surprised me. Look, let me tell you what this is about first. When Tom Layward's wife had an affair, he resolved to leave her as soon as his youngest daughter turned 18. 12 years later, while driving her to Pittsburgh to start university, he remembers his pact. He's also on the run from his own health issues and the fact that he's been put on leave at work after students complained about the politics of his law class, something he hasn't yet told his wife. So after dropping Miriam off, he keeps driving, with the vague plan of visiting people from his past, an old college friend, his ex-girlfriend, his brother, his son, en route, maybe, to his father's grave in California. For a lot of this, I thought that it was just going to be a story about white male angst, and a lot of it was. But it takes a turn at the end, and I really ended up appreciating it. I wrote a... But, okay, here's what I appreciated. In his mind, during his travels, I ended up liking it because he was having conversations in his mind with his wife, who he was planning to leave. And that kind of gave me another aspect of it. So I enjoyed it, didn't love it. After that, though, I definitely needed something light. So I went with Beach Read by Emily Henry. Cute, fun, that is... all I have to say about it. It was fun. It was cute. Augustus Everett is an acclaimed author of literary fiction. January Andrews writes best-selling romance. When she pens A Happily Ever After, he kills off his entire cast. They're polar opposites. They had met in college. I didn't know that. In fact, the only thing they have in common is that for the next 3 months, they're living in neighboring beach houses, broke and bogged down with writer's block. Then one hazy evening, one thing leads to another, and they strike a deal designed to force them out of their creative ruts. Augustus will spend the summer writing something happy, and January will pen the great American novel. And she does, and it is great. She'll take him on field trips worthy of any rom-com montage, and he'll take her to interview the surviving members of a backwards death cult, obviously. Everyone will finish a book, and no one will fall in love, really. Except it's a romance, so there's a happily ever after. Fun read. I didn't find it as Funny Story, but it was still fun, and I enjoyed the read, and I definitely needed the palate cleanse, especially before I went on to The South by Tash Ah. Now, this is a first in a 4-book series. I'm guessing that the others will be called The North, the West, and the East. We'll see. Will I go on with them? This is another Booker Long List prize winner. Will I go on with the series? Probably not, unless they come out and are nominated as well. I found this a quiet kind of coming-of-age tale, but not a lot happens, so it was okay. When his grandfather dies, Jay travels south with his family to the property they've inherited, a once flourishing farm that has fallen into disrepair because of drought. The trees are diseased, the fields are parched from months of drought. Jay's father, Jack, sends him out to work the land, or whatever is left of it. Over the course of the hot, dense days, Jay finds himself drawn to Chuan, the son of the farm's manager, who is different from him in every way except one. This is where it got a little creepy out for me. One is, Jay is like 15 or 16, and Chuan is like 19 or 20. So, and I think they're cousins. Their dads had the same father, different mothers. So, anyway, out in the fields and on the streets in town, the charge between the boys intensifies. Inside the house, the other family members begin to confront their own secrets and regrets. Jack is a professor at a local college whose failures might have begun when he married his student, Sui Ching. So again, another college professor in trouble. There's a theme in this Booker thing. Sui does her best to keep her family together, though she too wonders what else her life could have been. And Fong, the farm's manager, refuses to see what is. Chuan, the land, the global forces that threaten to render his whole life obsolete. And I'm not really sure how I felt about the ending of this. I'm not talking about Jay and his cousin lover. I'm talking about the decision the family makes, and nothing, I don't know. It was an okay read. It was good, it was quiet, it was meditative, but again, if I had to choose, I'm not sure really I have a favorite novel yet. And this next one was a slow read for me. This is also on the Booker long list. This was a slow read for a short book, but what I'm left with is the atmosphere. Benjamin Wood in Seascraper creates an atmosphere so rich that I felt like I was there. And there are 2 unexpected twists in here that I want to say took me aback, but not in a bad way. They were unexpected twists. In this whole book, Thomas lives a slow, deliberate life with his mother in Longferry. His mom kind of gave me the creeps a little bit. Working his grandpa's trade as a shanker. He rises early to take his horse and cart to the gray, gloomy beach. And when I say gray and gloomy, I felt that. I felt like I was there with him. So in that, this is one of my more favorite books. Anyway, he's taking it to the gray, gloomy beach and scraping for shrimp, spending the afternoon selling his wares, trying to wash away the salt and scum, pining for Joan Wyeth down the street, and rehearsing songs on his guitar. At heart, he is a folk musician, but it remains a private dream. When a striking visitor turns up, bringing the promise of Hollywood glamour, Thomas is shaken from the drudgery of his days and begins to see a different future. But how much of what the American claims is true, and how far can his inspiration carry Thomas? apparently far enough for him to take some steps that I don't want to tell you about because it would spoil it. But this book was the most atmospheric of all the Booker long lists that I've read, and I am glad that the Booker long list put this book on my radar. It was a very slow read, but like I said, I felt like I was there with him, and at the end, I ended up enjoying the two twists and how these two things kind of inspire, I forgot his name, Thomas, to get out of his rut a little bit. Breaking news, finally, I finished listening to The Third Reich at War. This was stunning. I feel bad that I didn't read it because I don't retain as much when I listen as I do when I see the book visually. But definitely worthy of a listen. Definitely something I will reference again. Richard J. Evans does a great job of portraying the Third Reich at war. Finally, I got a little bit nostalgic and I ordered a book that I had when I was a kid and read when I was a kid, and that is Richard Peck, sorry about the stickers, used copies. Richard Peck's Don't Look and It Won't Hurt. One thing I have to say about books written, this was published 1972, books written around that time frame for YA are very dark. And I say that it's dark because there's poverty in here, there's child abuse, things that I want to say you wouldn't get away with today. That's not accurate. But in writing, Moms for Liberty would definitely try to ban this book. There's a teen pregnancy in here. Carol Patterson is a 16-year-old girl beset with problems. She feels lonely and unpopular at school. Her quiet bookishness and shabby clothes make her something of an outcast. Her mother can barely support Carol and her sisters with her job as hostess at a roadside restaurant. And so the mom's always gone and the kids are kind of raising themselves. To make matters worse, Carol's older sister Ellen becomes pregnant and must come to a decision about the fate of her baby. Although overburdened with worry, Carol tries valiantly to help her sister and continue on her own road to maturity. Does she have the endurance to make it through these hard times? There is reference to the Vietnam War in here, and draft dodging, and drugs, pregnancy, obviously, adoption, abortion, the only thing that I've noticed this with a couple other writers about that time frame, who were writing about that time frame, is he doesn't wrap it up for me successfully. Like, there's this thing that happens, I'll just go ahead and spoil it here, with the cat at the vet, and we end not knowing if the cat lives or dies, and I need to know, Richard, if the cat lived or died. But I believe that Mr. Peck is no longer with us, so I will never know. And I also think that saying don't look and it won't hurt is kind of simplistic for giving up a child. However, talking about themes, this has a similar theme as Love Forms by Claire Adam. No spoiler there. It is about a woman who gives up a child when she's a teen. So I did not intend that to be a theme. Anywho, that is all that I read last week. And on the purse book side, I am still reading Berlin Diary by William Shirer. I made some progress, finally got through the halfway mark on this last week. I've got still just over halfway to go. But fascinating. And listening to this, or reading this, and listening to The Third Reich at War was a perfect complement. However, not going to put that there, it'll topple. For my next audiobook, I am going to stay in World War II, but I am going to Ardennes in 1944 by Antony Beevor. Really going to do a deep dive on the Battle of the Bulge. This time what I'm going to try to do is if I hear something significant, come mark it in here. I'm not going to hold myself to it, but I'm going to try. And finally, my next read to start off the work week will be Misinterpretation by Lydia Joga. This is also a book on the Booker long list. Of the ones that I have 4 more to go. And I have one that's allegedly on the way. Not so fun fact, it's supposed to have arrived yesterday, but it arrived like this. Unsealed, only the receipt in there, and no book. So to give them credit, I reached out to Blackwell's. I sent a picture of the received unsealed stamp from the USPS and the open envelope, and they are processing a new book for me. So hopefully this will come in actually in the next few weeks. Anywho, good productive reading week. I doubt I will have as good a one next week because I am taking Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday off of work. And for me, I read less when I'm not working because I have things that I can get out and do during the day. Whereas in the work week, I just come home and plop down and start reading. Anywho, that is it for me now. As always, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for sticking with me on my journey, and happy reading.